common spiritual and relational advice is that we need to let difficult things go, but it's never been clear how to do that. And do we only need to let hard things go? Welcome to our last 5-minute spirituality, a look at how the great spiritual masters help you enjoy and thrive in your life right now. As we close out our short series of videos, I want to give a moment to a key insight from our contemplative teachers. You've picked up by now, and you've experienced as you've practiced prayerful meditation, that among the biggest benefits to contemplative practice is learning to live in the present moment. That's central to what will help your life feel better, more connected to God, less anxious, more insightful, among many other benefits. So I want to look at this in a bit more detail here. The idea is that our consciousness is set up to take in this moment, but also let the moment go when it's no longer this moment. So one teacher offers this image. Imagine you're driving down a freeway which has trees along the side of the road. Were you to think back to what a given tree looked like from 5 miles back, you likely couldn't remember. That's 5 miles ago. You're now at this part of the road. Healthy consciousness, this teacher writes, looks that way. We're fully present to each new turn in the road, and that last vista, as it were, flows through us. But now, let's say you see a red Honda, and it triggers you because your ex drove a red Honda, and things ended pretty badly with your ex. Now that's all you can think about. A common phrase among contemplatives is, like the views along the road in this analogy, everything comes and goes. If something good happens to us, human nature is that we don't want to let it go. We cling to it. Or if something bad happens to us, we're afraid something like it might happen again, and we shun it. We defensively detach from it. In both cases, good and bad, we're not taking in what's right in front of us. So we're told that if we cling to a good experience or emotion, it won't last. It will turn out to be unsatisfactory. And if, in the red Honda sense, we hold on to a bad experience or emotion, we not only miss the moment that's being offered to us, the moment that God is actually doing great things in, but we also get into what one writer calls bad time, where it's as if we haven't actually lived in the moment from when we see the red car to when we move on. It can seem sad that everything comes and goes, right? Is life so fleeting? And what about relationships and wealth and other good stuff? I mean, what's so bad about holding on to things we value? Is this a fatalistic or despairing perspective? I don't think it is. You're going to like where this heads, because it heads straight to a journey, which again is the heart of the spirituality we're describing. It means your life is in a kind of motion with God that is headed to someplace that's, yes, uncharted, that no one has ever gone to before, but is happening with the best of guides. If we learn to go on this journey and practice leaving behind the kind of clinging or defensive detachment that will stop us in our tracks, I think about this with important stuff in all religious traditions that I've certainly preached about a lot, like forgiveness. No one denies that forgiving people who we feel have wronged us is crucial to our well-being, whether they ask for it or not. In Matthew 18, Jesus tells Peter, we need to forgive people who hurt us basically an infinite amount of times, that forgiveness, as it were, should just flow through us. But forgiveness as a non-contemplative can be pretty hard work. So I think of one story that ended positively for me. A while back, I got a surprising email. As a minister, sometimes I would say things that would upset people, and sometimes they would get really upset and rally others to be upset too. One of the worst of these conflicts was with a man I will call Eddie. I'd been friends with Eddie. So some years after he left my life with maximal cursing, he emailed me a friendly note about a news item of mutual interest. I wasn't sure what to do. It seemed shocking. And it brought me right back to how I felt he'd really wronged me. But then I realized something surprising. Seemingly as part of my contemplative practice, it turned out I'd actually long before forgiven him. Who could have guessed? So I had no resistance just emailing back an equally friendly note and moving on. It was shocking that it didn't involve a laborious process. Previously, I'd experienced that if the person didn't ask your forgiveness, as they rarely did, as Eddie of course hadn't, you might need to just forgive them the best you could and keep doing it as often as needed until you didn't think about them anymore, or could even wish them well, which could take quite a long time. And even then, in the red Honda sense, it was likely only a matter of time until a memory of them again triggered you. But these contemplatives said that you just forgave them by letting it go, the same way you would let a thought go in meditation, and that was it. This is what I'd done with Eddie, and darned if it hadn't worked. I've had other traumatic relationships which have taken a little more work, but the sort of mindful welcoming that we've talked about has made all the difference. I've discovered that if I can't just let something go in the way I did with Eddie, I can still prayerfully meditate. If the pain of those difficult relationships comes to mind, I can mindfully notice it. What exactly am I feeling? This can seem scary at first, of course. The whole point is that these are emotions I don't want to feel, and so immediately, unconsciously even, I stuff them down. But once I dial down and do feel the safety to get curious about them, I discover they're usually a little more complicated than I'd guessed. I'm not just feeling mistreated or betrayed or whatever. Maybe as I sit with these difficult emotions, I realize I'm feeling judged, or I'm feeling disappointed, or I'm feeling vengeful, or I'm feeling sad. Maybe there are even some positive emotions mixed in there which I'd missed. Surprisingly, as I realize I'm feeling lots of distinct things, I realize it's easier to let aspects of whatever I'm feeling go. Maybe the whole package is too big, but in stillness, bit by bit, it's easier than I'd thought. It turns out that being triggered by the red car gives us a moment to be curious about what the trigger is, where before we would just in fact be triggered and so be stuck. The curiosity, which seems so scary at first because it means we have to be still in the presence of the painful emotion, turns out to have remarkable power. And then customarily, we'll realize that the pain is in fact in our past. And being behind us, we realize that our car, as it were, has traveled to a new vista, and we're curious what that vista might look like. Everything comes and goes. So that begs the question, what's coming to view for you right now? So there it is. You have finished our 5-minute spirituality videos. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. And if you enjoy 5-minute spirituality, you might also enjoy a lively weekly podcast on these things called Journey On with Dave Smeltzer. And I also host a vibrant online group on this stuff each week with people from all over, which you can learn about by shooting me an email. Until the next time.